Welcome back to another episode of Small Ball with Kenny Beecham. We are nearing the end of the year 2025. And this is a time of year. Well, some people on Twitter are saying this is the filler part of the year, post Christmas and pre New Year's. I don't look at it as filler, ladies and gentlemen. All of these days are very important to me. I look at these days as times to kind of look at the year that just got through and try to figure out how you can be better in 2025. I know some people don't subscribe to the whole New Year's resolution thing. And for a moment in time in my life, I was one of those people, but I kind of do see the value of turning the page for a new year and say, hey, I'm going to do this. Hey, I'm going to do that. So in today's episode, we will be giving New Year's resolutions to NBA teams, things that I think that they can improve on or things that I think they should be thinking about going into 2026. Before we get into it, y'all know we got to talk a little bit of the Bears. Now, I'm being very candid with y'all. As I record this episode, the Bears have not played their Sunday night football game, so they could have won by 30 or lost by a million. I don't know. But the one thing I do know is that for the first time in the last 8 years, the Bears have won the division, and I cannot be happy. I don't care. Well, I do care what happens tonight, but I'm not going to let that kill the vibes of saying that the Bears won the division for the first time in forever. So shout out to the Bears. Bear down. You know how it really goes. Now, for this episode, there is no order in the teams that I'm talking about. I'm not getting to all 30 teams. You can imagine we just don't have the time for that. And honestly, when I was doing my research and I was trying to come up with New Year's resolutions for there is a good amount of teams where I just couldn't really think of anything of real value. So let's just get into it. Starting off, can I start off with the Washington Wizards? Is that bad for programming to start off your episode by talking about the team that is 6-23, somehow not even the worst team in the league? Shout out to the Indiana Pacers. But I do look at them and thinking about their rebuild, which is, I guess, in year 3 of this rebuild, but they had a few years before they got rid of Bradley Beal where they weren't very good. So it feels like they've been rebuilding for forever. But the thing I gave them for the New Year's resolution is that it's time to take the next step in the rebuild. Right. I don't know exactly who they look at as like their real core young pieces. If you ask me, it is Alex Sarr, who's looked really good in this season. And we're going to talk about him a little bit later once we get to AskKB. Keyshawn George is high on that list. But after that, there's a couple different guys that are interesting, but maybe not part of the super core. But I don't know. I look at this team, and I'm giving them benefit of the doubt to say that they're going to end up with a top 5 pick, right? Let's just say that. So those two guys, top 5 pick, I think it's time to not shift to say, oh, we're trying to be a super competitive team. But I'm starting to truly dislike the idea of having the teams where your average age is 20 years old. And that's like, obviously they do got Chris Middleton and CJ McCollum, and it's kind of bringing that average age up. But for the most part, this is like a super, super young team. And I want more vets in that locker room. I want more people that can try to help them be more competitive on a day-to-day basis. And I look at a guy like Alex Sarr, and I look at a guy at George, and I'm like, man, they could really benefit from having a dude that can set the table, like just a true point guard. And it don't have to be Trae Young. It don't have to be Luka Doncic level of talent, but just somebody to take them to the next level. Because I think that we look at that team, and we just did an episode a few weeks back of ranking the top young cores in basketball. And though their team, the 10 out of their players is 25 or younger, I didn't even really consider them as an amazing young core just yet. And I think that if they just had more pieces around them, exterior pieces that can come in and help those young guys hit the next level. So New Year's resolution. Use some of that money that you're going to come into. Bro, this team is going to be so amazingly cheap. And I do want to give them credit from like the front office perspective, because they were a really cheap team going into the season. They say, hey, we'll take on Chris Middleton's contract at the deadline. Hey, we'll take on CJ McCollum and trade out Jordan Poole. And I want them to use that cap space, not to go out there and go get some superstar players, but maybe do bring on some of the bad contracts in the league, but still players that can contribute to hit the next level. So let's move on from them to go to the San Antonio Spurs, who for the last month of small ball, we've been having some conversation about the Spurs. My New Year's resolution to them is just stay pat. Now, for what it's worth, it is not the Spurs' way to make a big in-season trade. They just never really have done that, right? But there has, of course, been rumblings as far as fans go. It's like, oh, should they trade for this guy? Should they trade for this guy? Are they really a contender compared to the Thunder? If they just had one more extra piece, could they be the favorite, if you will? And I'm just saying, this is one of those years that you just got to stand pat. I really do like the OKC model of it all, where they did have their first year of being in the playoffs, and that entire year when they were the 1 seed, there were so many conversations of, should they trade for Cam Johnson? Should they trade for this shooter? Should they trade for that shooter? And then they used that year to kind of look at their first postseason say, hey, these are the places we can get better. And after that, when they lost in the second round, they traded away Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso. And Caruso came in and had multiple 20-point games in the next year where they were in the NBA Finals. And they used that first year to kind of evaluate the talent they had on the roster and then made the move. And I kind of look at the Spurs in that way as well. I mean, it's kind of similar in the way that they do have a top 5 player, just like that OKC team did, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They do have a core nucleus that is really young, like the Dub to Castles or the Chets to Harper, obviously different positions, but thinking about the overall age of these guys. So I would just tell them, don't make the decision. I don't think it's one that they would make in the first place, but don't make the decision to go out there and be super buyers, man. This team is as good as they can be right now. And it's funny to say that coming off a loss to the Utah Jazz, who just continue to have just good games. We had an episode of Small Ball or Numbers on the Board. We were kind of going through the bad teams in basketball and trying to figure out, are we like out on watching them live basketball again? And we got to the Utah Jazz. I was like, no, bro, I truly love watching Jazz basketball. They got something over there. And I don't know if it's something that's going to turn into a playoff team eventually, but between George, between Marketing, between Filipowski when he's playing, the list goes on and on. I've been even seeing some Cody Williams minutes that I ain't really hated. And that's saying a lot because Cody Williams, that first year, boy. But yeah, I like the things over there. Even Isaiah Collier, even though the eye test, and I ain't looked at the numbers, the eye test of the Collier and George minutes together look awful as far as like their defensive stops and stuff. But offensively, I like his passing ability. So some things brewing over there, and I'm enjoying it because not only are they in a lot of games, they're high scoring games. So if you're an offensive oriented guy, whether it be the Jazz themselves or the team they're going against, you about to see 130, you about to see 125, 140 on any given night. And for a long time, I thought that this was going to be a team that was going to shut down some players, and this still could be the case because we're only not even halfway through the season. But their pick is top 8 protected, and the more they play, the more I'm realizing that they don't really give a damn about that pick. And I guess their ownership told us that going into the season, and it was just hard to believe it. But I don't think they really give a damn about that pick. And we'll see, right? We'll see how many total games Larry Market ends up playing, or if they shut some dudes down the line. But right now, they are tied for a playing spot. The Utah Jazz. I mean, the Western Conference in general, the bottom of that West, you being under 500, you can still make it in. But they are so very close to being a postseason team, not a playoff team, but a postseason team. And I don't know, man. I don't know. I got good vibes for the Utah Jazz right now. The next team we'll talk about is, matter of fact, let's just go to OKC with it, since we just talked about the Spurs. I think that they should recognize the gap between them and the rest of the league is not as big as we thought. You know, at one time they were 22-1, and we were saying, hey, it's like them in the field don't really matter anymore. I think the field is starting to matter, as we can see, like whether it be the lack of jump shooting in these games versus the Spurs, or their point of attack defense not being able to keep up with some of the faster teams across basketball, or Lou Dort regressing on the offensive side of the ball, or J-Dub not being able to really flex his wrists on jump shots, to Chet Holmgren being outplayed in certain matchups. The gap between them and the opposing teams are not that crazy. I still do believe that if you ask me today who's going to win a championship, I'm still rolling with the OKC Thunder right before the year of 2026. But we could be a month down the line, and I may think about it just a little bit more. And I think they need to recognize that. This, like the Spurs, they have not been a team to try to pull off a bigger trade or just a trade in general once we got to the middle of the season. But if there's any time to do it, it might be now. I still look at them and say, man, that lack of jump shooting might be able to hurt them. And it almost did last year. They did win that championship, but like get into a couple game sevens. If you look at those numbers from the games they end up losing in the postseason, it's no surprise that a lot of those games, a chunk of those games are games that they just really missed a lot of shots from three, whether it be a Dort, whether it be this guy, whether it be that guy. These guys, when they are wide open, just hadn't been able to put it into the basket. So recognizing that gap to me means that, like, don't just sit on the hands. Now, I'm not saying go out there and trade for Giannis, but don't sit on the hands, take the calls, and see if you can improve the roster. The one part that does make it a little bit tricky is that the way you improve the roster when it matters is by getting rid of one of your core guys. And I look at this team like they could add a Kispert, they could add a Herter, just overall good jump shooters, but those guys are not going to be on the floor in the last 4 minutes of the game. And that's when they really need that jump shooting. So in order to go get that, whether it be a Trey Murphy, whose name is probably not even available, by the way, they would have to give up one of their guys. And maybe it's just me going off the NBA championship haze of it all, but it's hard for me to recognize whether or not they would trade a Hartenstein, whether or not they would trade a Dort plus some stuff, whether or not they would trade some of the more intriguing young players. Like, I know Topic is probably not a guy you trade for, considering all the stuff he's going through right now, or trade him or Sorber. we've never really seen them in this position. I can't even say back against the wall because they still are the 1 seed and still have the highest chance to win it all. But it feels like a somewhat of a back against the wall opportunity. So don't think that the gap is as big as it was a week and a half ago. Getting back to my New Year's resolutions for teams, let's go to the LA Lakers. I don't know, man. And JJ Redick said this is going to be an uncomfortable practice. And right after practice, DeAndre Ayton said, y'all really bought into that? I cannot believe how many just overall sound clips DeAndre Ayton has given us in the last like 3 years or so. Even if it wasn't the most uncomfortable practice, as JJ Redick said it would have been, you can't just throw your coach under the bus, right? Y'all believed in that. Y'all bought that. That's just the wrong answer. Anyway, my New Year's resolution for them, and this may feel counterproductive, is don't let these recent struggles change the overall game plan. It is easy to look at the Lakers, who were just a 2 seed not too long ago, look at them being on a 3-game losing streak as I record this episode, see some of the games they've lost being like getting blown out on Christmas from the Houston Rockets, and think that you have to shift the overall game plan. And in my mind, the game plan for the Lakers, since they've acquired Luka Doncic, is to just be good enough right now to be competitive and make the postseason, but look a little bit down the line and say, hey, in 2027, we'd be able to build the team around Luka. There's a conversation we had on Numbers on the Board a few days ago where I personally don't believe that this current team is built for Luka. It's just the team that was built that acquired Luka. They did go out there and get an Aiden who has been fine, right? He's been more than fine, I would say, given where he was just last season in Portland and all. Marcus Smart has allowed them to play a little bit of a higher level of defense when he's on the court. He's still giving you that passion and love to the defensive side of the ball that we see him give for the majority of his career. But for the most part, this team has not been built for Luka just yet. And the avenue to build yourself for Luka is really tough. And that's why we haven't seen him try to pull off a huge trade just yet. And it would be easy for Rob Pelinka or for the Lakers to look at their limited amount of draft capital, look at some of those contracts that they've accumulated between Vanderbilt, between Vincent, between the list goes on Maxi Kleber, and say, hey, man, we package some of this up. We can go get an impactful player right now. And I'm looking at what the market is and the lack of players that are available, because even the guys that we thought were really available, the Giannis's or the Anthony Davis of the world, they may not be available at all. And I could see you easily saying we package all this together and we go get this impactful player. And I'm struggling to figure out A, who that player would be, and B, would that player be impactful enough for me and us to look at the Lakers and say they can win 4 series in the postseason. I just don't see that. So it feels like a year that would be a bridge year, and be okay with it being a bridge year. At the end of the day, you got Luka Doncic under contract for a few more seasons. He seems pretty okay and happy as of right now. And if you can convince him, give me a year and a half's time, and I promise you, we build the team around you that you can feel empowered. Or of course, he feels empowered. He's leading the league in scoring, but you feel like this is a team that can compete. So be it. Just don't rush this process. Just don't. Because I'm again just looking at the teams like, okay, who's available? Is that guy? If just in hypothetical world, the most available guy that is the best available guy on the market, if he was traded to the Lakers today for the package they give up, do you think that that's going to change them to be in the conversations with the Thunder or be in the conversations with Desi? Probably not. So let's chill. It's like maybe kind of tough to do when you got a 40-year-old Bron on the team. Who knows what's going to happen there? But I'm thinking that you have to think more long term right now, because if you make the bigger decision now and you acquire somebody and give up majority of your assets to get there, and you still are behind some of these teams, then again you just set yourself back. So don't do it. This is not a New Year's resolution for this team, and maybe I'm just out of the know. It's really, really possible. But I look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Whew, do I want to say this? Yeah, I look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I say I'm starting to open up to the idea of trading a guy like Naz Reid in order to improve the overall point guard play. And the reason I'm saying this has nothing to do with Naz Reid not playing his best basketball right now. As I said at the beginning of the season, whatever happens with Naz Reid, I'm giving him a full pass on the season. He is still averaging 14, 6, and 3 on decent enough splits. But given everything that happened in the offseason with him and his family, I couldn't imagine traveling every single day for my career and having to play basketball. So again, I'm not even thinking about him as the player, but I'm thinking about the construction of this team. and thinking about how some of these lineups that they have to go to, in between when it is a Julius Randle and it is Nas Reed on the court, and just looking at how much that hemorrhages possessions for the opposing teams and shots for the opposing team. And I'm like, man, as good as Nas Reed is, and he would be a valuable asset in the overall trade market if you were trying to acquire a point guard, I may feel okay with trading him away. Now, the problem is, what does that team look like? Who is the buyer of Nas Reed in order to give you a point guard? I don't really know, right? I'm just speaking in generalities at this point. But going to the season, I was like, yeah, there's no real world where like a Nas Reed has felt so ingrained in the Minnesota Timberwolves, and he still is, don't get me wrong, that he feels like a guy that would have been out of trade conversations regardless of what his production was, because the city is Nas Reed. Nas Reed is the city. But now as I sit back and I watch this team play, and I'm like, yeah, they could use some help there. And because of, I won't use the word overlapping skill sets, but the pieces of their bigs not fitting like a puzzle time and time makes me feel like that may be a little bit more expendable. Again, it's not a New Year's resolution, but it's just a thought that I had a few nights ago as I was watching them play. Moving on to the next team, the Houston Rockets. My New Year's resolution to them is to just keep this starting unit that they've been running out. Now, Şengün missed the last game, and that was a Kevin Durant explosion, 30 points, and a really efficient. It felt like I was watching 2011 Kevin Durant again, 2013 Kevin Durant. But keep the unit that is Amin Thompson, Kevin Durant, Alperen Şengün, Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason. I'm okay with Josh Okogie not being in that unit. And if we can keep Tari Eason healthy, this feels like their best combination of talent to start a game and to close a game. And I think a lot of that boils down to Tari Eason being as lethal as he is from three right now. And teams still have not respected his jump shooting. And it kind of makes sense, right? I mean, when you have a Kevin Durant, you have an Alperen Şengün, these guys who in the half court on any given night can, deserve a double team. We're okay with Tari Eason taking that three. The man is shooting 49% from three. I don't think that's sustainable that he's going to end the season shooting almost 50% on threes on 4.5 attempts. But I do feel like this is a real three-point shooter, right? I do believe he's a 40% three-point shooter at the minimum. So him being able to knock down those shots and him being able to still stir up so much trouble on the defensive end. I made the tweet yesterday from their previous game that anytime he sees a loose ball on the court, he looks like Jeff Hardy jumping off the turnbuckle, bro. He is jumping out of the gym. That loose ball is his regardless. And in the 203 minutes that him and Amin Thompson have played together, as you can imagine, they have a net rating of a plus 9.5 according to Data Baller. And you feel that while they are on the court. This team really guards up. And he is one of the few true offensive shooting threats on the team. And don't get me started. I'm sorry. If we just look at overall minutes, it's a plus 14.2. I was looking at the high leverage minutes. But overall, they've been amazing. And if we let me just add the one guy here into this, and I'm doing this on the fly. And I have not looked at these numbers. If we add the other shooter, yeah, I mean, this Reed Shepherd added to that unit. And again, I'm not even just talking about the star unit anymore. Reed Shepherd added to that unit. This is where you get your shooting. This is not going to be a team that's going to shoot a bunch of threes. We've known that this has not been their identity. And the superstar they traded for, Kevin Durant, just don't shoot enough threes. He's never shot enough threes for his type of production. But if we could just have the few three-point shooters that we do have and have them go out and hit efficiently, then it's a win. I also didn't realize Kevin Durant's three-pointers per game right now, his 44% from three, golly, he's efficient. His 4.5 attempts from three right now is the lowest he's shot in attempt-wise since 2012-13 in over a decade. And I just don't know what that's about. I've always wanted to see a year where Kevin Durant, this is never going to be him. He's 37, for God's sakes, Kenny. He's never going to do this. But if we can have a year where Kevin Durant shot 9 3-pointers, I mean, even 10 3-pointers a night, can you imagine the type of production we can get from KD? It's just probably not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. And 10 3-pointers don't even sound like a lot to me no more. 10 3-pointers a game just feels like a normal shooter on any given team. A guy that has an ultimate green light. And Kevin Durant just has not done that. Yeah, we know what his bread and butter is. I'm looking at it right now. 3-point attempts per game. If he shot 10, never mind. If he shot 10 a game, that will put him top 5. Okay. So it's super unrealistic to see for him. But he's almost 40 years old. But no, I've been loving the Houston Rockets, obviously they did have the little portion where they've been struggling to close out games. And I think that's part of the growing pains of acquiring a guy like Kevin. We have had a few games where he has closed it out for them, but like sometimes he feels kind of outside of the action where it becomes Shingun. And it feels like we haven't had many end of game situations where it was close, where both of them were involved in the action, and we try to pick our poison as the defense. And I think that will come with time. This is kind of like the growing pains part of the season. It's hard for me to overreact right now. Now, if we were talking about how clutch or the lack of clutch possessions or the lack of clutch intensity later in the season, then we can really talk about it. When we come back, we got more resolutions. Before we go any further, we want to say thank you to the sponsor, DraftKings. You know all about DraftKings Pick 6 by now. You can pick more or less on different players' stats for the upcoming games. Just pick 2 or more different players to your pick set, decide a stat, go more or less, sit back, relax, and see if you made the right decision. Y'all know for the entirety of small ball this season, we've been doing these themes. I think last week's theme was like a rookie thing, and I don't remember how that went. I know that boy Khan hit. Get well soon, Khan, because he had the ankle roll. But I got another theme pick set for y'all today. As always, I'll remind you to play responsibly and just have fun if you are going to play. All right, here we go. The 4 names I have today for my pick set. The theme is new team, same me. Well, in some cases, it's new team, different me, but we don't get to that. These are guys that have changed teams over the last offseason that have been playing decent to good basketball that I just kind of want to, put them in the pick set right now. See if they're going to go more on their points, because all of these are more on points. Starting off with Michael Porter Jr. Hey, y'all. In the next segment, we're going to talk about a little bit of the Brooklyn Nets, but Michael Porter Jr. has been on one. And it's not even like, what are we, 30 games into the season for them? So you can't say this is a streak anymore. This is just who Michael Porter Jr. is. It's kind of a testament to like, it's just rolling opportunity, right? Michael Porter Jr. was the number 1 guy in his high school class, had all the back injuries, got the drop foot, yada, yada, yada. He goes to Denver, doesn't play his whole first season, becomes a role player, and played that role really well until they decided that it was time for him to go. And now he ends up in Brooklyn, where he is averaging 26 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, and 3 assists. And I think the most surprising of it all is that 3 assist number, because that's just never been his thing. I am going more on points on Michael Porter Jr. Again, we'll talk a little bit more Brooklyn Nets later in the episode. The next game is a guy we just talked about last segment, Kevin Durant. I'm going more on his points as well. As I record this episode, there is no say on whether or not Shingun is playing. So, I don't know exactly where the line is right now, but if Shingun is not playing, and Kevin Durant may be able to do the same thing he just did against that Cavaliers team a few nights ago. So I'm going more on points there. We're going to go to Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane has had a really good up and down season, but it feels like we're more up than any time. In their last game, he scored 24 points, and that's still without him really having the three-point shooting that we know him to have, where he is a career 40% three-point shooting. Right now, he's shooting 35% on the least amount of attempts since his rookie season. So I do believe the jump shooting will come around. I mean, he has not hit a three-pointer in 2 games now. He was 0 of 2, then 0 of 6. So this might be the game that he gets back on track. But even in the game, some of these games that he has not hit three-pointers, it's still 24 points here. So he's been able to still be an effective player, even if the three-point shot is not falling. I'm going more on points there. And then the last name is Norman Powell, who maybe one of the funniest clips of the entire season is Bam Adebayo getting interviewed the other night when they won the game. And Bam Adebayo did not play. And Norman Powell's in the background like, why are they interviewing you? He ain't even play. Norman Powell deserves to be interviewed, man. He's been playing some really good hoops. So I'm going more on Stormin' Norman Powell's points, where he's at 23.7 points. Who would have thought that in year 10 of his career, and I'm talking about last season, year 10 of his career, he'd be averaging as many points as he did, and then be able to translate that the next season on the new team and average even more. He averaged 13 points the year before that. He did get up to 18 and a half his last year in Toronto, but again, 23 just feels like a whole nother level. And I've talked about it before. He's one of my favorite north-south players in ball. And he don't take long to make decisions. He don't take long to make decisions. He ain't going to pass it a lot, but he don't take long to make decisions. And the most of the decisions, I'm going to get that shot on the rim. And he's been hitting those shots. That's a pick set for today, man. Y'all let me know what you think. As always, please play responsibly. Shout out to DraftKings for sponsoring. Now let's go back to our New Year's resolutions. For those who haven't checked out DraftKings Pick 6 yet, there's an exclusive offer waiting for you. Right now, new DraftKings customers can play $5 and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. All you have to do is download the Pick 6 app and use promo code ENJOY when you sign up. Pick 6 is available in most states, including Texas, California, Missouri, so don't be afraid to get in on the action. Ride the upside with Pick 6. The first team I want to talk about, getting back into these New Year's resolutions, is the Brooklyn Nets. Now, I don't think this is cheating, just like the Minnesota Timberwolves one we talked about. This is not a 2026 thing, but I'm ready for them to build like an actual good team for Jordy Fernandez, because this is the second year in a row where the Brooklyn Nets have had a stretch. You're like, man, that team is more frisky than we could have imagined. For the last month and some change, they have been the best defensive team in all of basketball, better than the legendary OKC, better than the Houston Rockets, better than every other team in the league. It's been them. And then we did that segment on Numbers on the Board, and we were talking, and we got to the Brooklyn Nets, and I said, hey, I hadn't watched the Brooklyn Nets game start to finish in a month. Get the highlights, get the moments, because they do get early tip-offs if it is in Brooklyn. So get the first quarter and a half before I transition to the next game. Yesterday, I sat back and I'm like, let me watch this for a few different reasons. They were going against Minnesota, and I really like Minnesota playing basketball. And the second one is that Cam Thomas was back. Let's see what Cam Thomas does to this team. Cam Thomas is an electric offensive player, as y'all know. But if they're going to have the defensive infrastructure around him and Michael Porter Jr., who is we ball players, it's become a fun team. And some of those younger dudes are starting to step up to the plate and play better. So shout out to the Brooklyn Nets. I don't know if this is smart, but when you have it, no, you're never going to be able to ask the coach to lose. You're never going to be able to ask the players to lose. And as of right now, they're 10-19 and on a 3-game streak, and not even just a normal 3-game streak. These are against some really solid to good teams between Minnesota and so on. So at the end of the day, I would say if you have some time, go watch a Nets game here, there, man. It may surprise you, just like it surprised me. They won against Minnesota, and it's just like, it's a good team, man. It's a fun team as of right now. They got like the by committee thing, and I love by committee teams, especially if they're going to have an identity. So they got a win against Minnesota. They got a win against the 76ers. They held the Toronto Raptors to 81 points in 2025. They held the team to 81 points. So I just want to see them eventually just build I want to see what Jordy Fernandez could cook up if he had like a real roster around him. Moving on to the Atlanta Hawks. This one is pretty easy for me. I want to see them learn how to close out possessions. Part of this is Porzingis has not been healthy, and I think I just got an update right before we started filming that he might be able to play relatively soon. But still, some of these games they've lost on this recent little down skid, it's like, obviously the defense is not good, but it's elevated to a whole new level when you don't have players that rebound well. I want to give credit to Onyeka Okongwu, who's a glass crasher, even Jalen Johnson. But as a team, collectively, they're lacking some of that big man play, that big man rebounder. And again, some of that's Porzingis not being there. And it's a weird place for them. Like, sometimes I look at them, it's like I want to see them be buyers, and sometimes I look at them and say, yeah, maybe a little bit too late. But if they can acquire somebody that can literally just rebound the basketball, I don't need you to do nothing else offensively, just rebound the ball, close out defensive possessions. I feel like this team goes to a whole nother level. I would also like to see that happen internally as well. I'm not here to punch a man while he's down, because Zachary Reese, I say, has not been good this season. More recently, I saw his stats over the last 15 games versus Tajon Salon's stats, and Tajon Salon's stats looked better. That's not good. But so I don't want to kick him while he's down. But one thing that bothers me when I watch him play is the other thing. Sometimes you're not talented enough to make this move. You can't make this jump shot. Some of that stuff you just can't control as of right now. You're a year two player. It's the effort things. It's the rebound. Like, for him to be a wing that is 6'8" and to average 2 rebounds, it blows my mind. There's a few dudes around the league that's kind of like that. My boy Miles Muzelis is in this camp as well. Maybe it's just this whole goddamn draft class when it comes to the wings. Y'all are too tall and too good off athletically to not get boards. And it's like, go out there, go get a board, go box somebody out. Stuff like that bothers me when I watch them play. So learn to close out possessions. And I don't know if that means acquiring a big or doing it eternally, but if you get a stop and you get that second chance opportunity for the opposing team, they're 25th in the league when it comes to total possessions in comparison to their opponent. So they're just not a team that's going to get extra steals or get extra blocks that they retain or get extra offensive rebounds. So you definitely can't be a team that's giving up offensive rebounds. They've been doing that for the last little stretch. Next team is the Orlando Magic. I want to see them help Paolo Banchero get his confidence back. They lost a game to the Charlotte Hornets, a really embarrassing loss where Paolo basically didn't do anything. The game after that, they played against the Denver Nuggets and got a really good win. We don't talk about that boy Anthony Black, who almost had a little 40 ball. But in these games, since he's been back, he has not looked like the confident player that we know him to be. Part of that could be just him coming back from the injury, and it's a groin, and sometimes you just can't move the same way as before a groin injury. But it feels like he may be overcompensating a little bit, seeing all of the noise and seeing how good the team was without him, and saying that, oh, they're playing in the flow. I kind of want to just be a piece, a cog on this machine. And there are times where I'm okay with that, right? You kind of want him to dial back where he was a couple or last year and the years before that. But I think he went too far in the other way, where I just want to see him get his confidence back. I want to see him be the offensive force that we know he could be, because again, that just helps this team be a lot better. Now transition over to Anthony Black, who's been a dog. Let me see, can I do NBA last 10 game stats? I don't even know what the numbers look like for him for the last 10 games, but I promise you they're really good, because he has been on a whole nother level. If you've been listening to the show since the offseason, y'all know we did the most intriguing players list, and he was the first name I mentioned on the most intriguing players. And in that, I said that, man, they're going to really need him to be good. Him being on the rookie scale contract, them investing as much as they did. Anthony Black over the last 10 games, he's averaging 19 points per game. Take that. They're going to need him to be good because they invested so much in Desmond Bane, and the rookie scale contracts become even more important when your team trying to compete. And we looked at his last year numbers of him being a on-ball player and how bad it was. And I suggested, hey, maybe there's an opportunity for Anthony Black to transition to straight up 3-and-D. Just play him completely off of the ball. And with Suggs being in and out of the lineup and Franz being out of the last 8 games or so, they've empowered Anthony Black to just be back on the ball. And all of the numbers where he was dead last in the league on points out of pick and rolls have gone up dramatically. And I was looking at it about a week and a half ago, and I don't want to bring those numbers because my synergy account is down. And I feel like those numbers will be even higher now because he just had his best game of his NBA career. So a lot of the things I expected of him as far as him transitioning to a 3-and-D guy are gone. He's straight up on ball bouncy and taking the ball out of Jamal Murray's hands when it matters. I have been in love with Anthony Black's play, and that was the reason why he was one of the most intriguing player for the league to me, because for a team to be this young, they needed one of these guys to really step up, and it has been Anthony Black. So much so that I saw Magic fans saying, like, what does this lineup look like when everybody is healthy? Because they feel weird about putting Anthony Black back on that bench. That's how good of a player he has been. And I don't have the answer. That's a Jamal Mosley thing, but he's been incredible. And if this is just the beginning of something, then it makes the next decision, which I won't talk about. It makes the next decision for the Orlando Magic a little bit easier if Anthony Black can have this explosion of offensive upkeep and everything. Next team we got the Chicago Bulls. Y'all know it. We were going to do an episode. I had to talk about the Bulls a little bit. Just sell. I mean, Reinsdorf, I'm talking, you can sell the team. That would be great. But I mean, like, the players that are in the locker room, sell them. And I'm not saying that out of a point of frustration. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know. It feels like an open market. There are a few guys on the team that I think will have some level of value, maybe not as much value as they did last season, like a Kobe White, who would have been more valuable last season because he would have had 2 years in the contract. And now whatever team trades for him is going to have to pay him next season. I would assume it was a guy that contributes to winning teams, if you ask me. So there's a few different guys that I feel like we should be picking up the phone and trying to get as many future assets as we can. I don't know if that's what they're going to do because the goddamn Chicago Bulls, but it's what I want and we want. I'm speaking for all Bulls fans, what we want. A few more before we get to our favorite segment, AskKB. The Sacramento Kings, quickly talk about the Sacramento Kings. My New Year's resolution to them is to keep playing the young guys, not at the expense of Russell Westbrook. Let Brody rock the hell out. I've been loving Russell Westbrook this season. But between Maxime Reynaud, who sometimes Raynard, sometimes Reynaud, I've heard it both ways. Between Keon, who just had his best game of the season, between my boy Nick Clifford, between my boy Cardwell, just let them all play. Because what are we doing other than trying to get lottery odds anyway? I think the Maxime Reynaud or Reynard explosion for the last however many games makes me more intrigued about what the team can look like when Sabonis can come back, because they only have played 4 minutes together. They were net neutral in those 4 minutes. It's 4 minutes. I want to see lineups where Reynaud and Sabonis play together. It's gonna look clunky, but I'm very curious of how his impact can be if he has another good to great passer on the floor with him. So keep playing the young guys. The last quick one we got is for the Phoenix Suns, And I'm just going to make it straight to the point. Continue to take shots on reclamation projects between Dylan Brooks, between Mark Williams, between Colin Gillespie. The list goes on and on. They've hit on some of these guys that other teams didn't want. And I truly like that about them. And they've been able to, whether it be Jordan Ott or the system, help all of those guys have near career years. And I absolutely love it. When we come back, we got Ask KB. Ask KB is my favorite segment we do on a weekly because it gives you an opportunity to be a part of the show. All you got to do is hit us up on Twitter with the hashtag AskKB or reply to the tweet. Hit us up on Instagram if you want to send a voice message, or hell, be in the comment section of the YouTube video. All of these places are places you can go in order to be incorporated in the episode. The first one comes from Cash, maybe? Hashtag AskKB. I know it's very early in their careers, but did the Wizards make the right pick choosing Sarr over Castle? I've seen a lot of debate on Twitter and feel like if Sarr had better pieces around him play, people would respect him and what he's doing more. What do you think? It does kind of go into the conversation we had at the top of the show with the Washington Wizards that if they had a couple more just normal NBA players, good NBA players in the locker room, maybe it would help Alex Sarr shine a little bit. But here's what I would say. If we were doing a 2024 NBA redraft, I think 99% of people would take Stephon Castle number one. I don't think that's a controversial take. I think Stephon Castle, as a guy that was looked at, and I went back to look at some mocks, and I'll talk about that in a second. A guy that was projected to be like a high energy defensive player with the potential offensive upside has already showed you, 100 games to his career, whatever number is at, that the offensive upside is real and it continues to get better and better. And I think that we like the idea of a guy that can change his pace as a guard, a guy that can defend your best player, a guy that can get downhill a lot. So I think the redraft says that. But also, as I went back to look at all of the mocks, I'm talking about BR, I'm talking ESPN, I'm talking CBS, I'm talking even independent guys, guys that really care about the scouting, the drafting aspect of sports. Not a single person has Stephon Castle higher than Alex Sarr on their mocks. So it's easy for us to say, oh, they should have taken Castle, but there wasn't anybody, at least the whatever amount of mocks that I went back to look, not a single person had Castle higher than Sarr. Sarr was 1 on a lot of boards. Sarr was 2 on a lot of boards. I saw Stephon Castle as low as 6 on some boards, right? So we could talk about progression. We could talk about the fact that, Castle has a better infrastructure around him to make him look good, but I don't like looking at that revisionist history and saying that, oh, they made the wrong decision because somebody may look better right now when there was no world where that player would have been drafted in that spot. 29 teams across basketball made the wrong decision about letting Nikola Jokic drop to the second round. But it would have been unrealistic for the number one pick to be Nikola Jokic, right? But now we know Nikola Jokic is the best player in that draft. So I don't think they made the wrong decision. I do believe that what Alex Sarr has showed us this season, that he is a guy that will be an impactful, really good to maybe great NBA player for a long time in his league. I do believe that regardless of what the on-off defensive numbers say, that when the team is trying to be good, you will recognize on a nightly basis that he is a plus defensive player. And if he continues to round out his offensive game and continue to improve his touch around the basket and continue to just be more aggressive offensively, I think that we will go back and be like, oh yeah, Alex Sarr was worthy of the pick that he was taken at number 2. But it's a very good question. I actually like the conversations around it. The next one comes from Denver Dispatch. What would you rank Jamal Murray as a duo at their peak all time? Do they crack the top 10? Now, I don't know how to really answer this question. And the reason for that is there's still so much time left in these conversations. Because if you want to compare them to Stockton and Malone, obviously got the championship over those guys, but you want to compare them to Scottie and MJ, the guys that played the bulk of majority of their careers together, it's too early, right? There's a world where the Denver Nuggets still got 2 more championships, 3 more championships up their sleeves, and then we can have these conversations. But there's just too many between Magic, Kareem. I mean, I don't know. Do you break up trios to make duos? Right? Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, you can count that as a duo, but you also say, hey, Klay Thompson was here. So I can break that up as a duo and say Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, they had their success. MJ and Pippen, Kobe and Shaq, like that. Those are already alive. Even Karl Malone and John Stockton. It's a tough one because Karl Malone he underperformed postseason wise, and because of that, they never really got to the the championship, obviously. So maybe that's more of a debate. If you want to go way back to like the Bill Russell and Sam Jones, so like there's too many great all-time duos for me to say they're in the top 10 as of today. I think that they definitely have the potential to be in this top 10 like especially Jamal Murray about making an all-star appearance, ladies and gentlemen. Like that's a real thing. But between I ain't even mentioned Bird and McHale, right? Those guys. List goes on and on. Wade and Braun, Kyrie and Braun. Like what how do we do this, y'all? So it's still too early, Denver Dispatch, but there is a true opportunity from the end up like that. And I think a lot of that has to do with, again, Nikola Jokic being so good. But they also have something that maybe some of those other duos don't have. Some of those other duos have like just the overall talent, overwhelming talent. The thing that the Denver guys have is that not only are they super talented, but they play so well together that they are a 1-2 punch in the single action. And some of those other teams, like, hey man, it's my turn to hoop because I'm a top 10 player, just like you a top 10 player right now. But ask me the same exact question in 4 years' time, and we'll really have a conversation. The next one comes from Ryan. #AskKB. Is there a third player who you think will seriously contend for MVP this season, or is it just another two-man race between Jokic and Shea? Hey Ryan, sorry to break it to you. I don't know if you are a guy that thinks that there should be a third guy. Nah. You know what Luka would have to do to actually end up in this conversation? Do you know what Giannis would have to do? Well, Giannis may not be eligible by the end of it all with all the injury and stuff, but do you know what Giannis would have to do to actually end up in this conversation? The conversation right now is Shea is on the best team in basketball. Well, one time it looked like it might have been an all-time team. Maybe it still has a chance. Probably not. But not only just that, he came off last year where he had the best guard season almost ever. And some people would argue ever. And then came into this season, regular season wise, and looked better. Looked like a better playmaker. Closed out more games. Been more efficient. It's kind of nuts to win a championship and MVP and say, I'm better offensively. And then the other guy, Big Yoke, is like, I'm the best player in the world, one. I'm about to average another triple-double if we talk about just traditional statistics. And right now, my team is down 3 starters, and they've only played 2 games, and they're 1-1 in those 2 games. My team is down 3 starters, and we should be able to just maintain. 3 starters, and we should be able to maintain. They're starting a two-way guy at the 4, and it just has not mattered. That's special. If you ask me today, right before the start of 2026, who's the MVP of the league? Today, right now, Jokic is my number 1 and Shea is my number 2. And it could flip again. Hell, it was just Shea 2.5 weeks ago. This is always a fluid conversation. But nah, I think it's a really, really distant third place, like Luka or something. Matter of fact, let's not do or something. Let's really say third place. That's tough, man. That's really, really tough, the third place spot. I think I'm just gonna say Luka. I know I said I'm just gonna say Luka right now. I don't know. But that lets you know there's a huge gap between 1 and 2. Huge gap between 1 and 2. Okay. The last question that we have is an audio question. Let's see what y'all cooked up.
Hey Kenny, this is Daniel. I'm sorry, I'm currently playing golf, but I just wanted to ask, if you're Kobe Altman at this current moment, would you prefer to trade Jarrett Allen or Darius Garland if the Cavs continue to be mediocre? As a Cavs fan, I've seen the offense as Mitchell as the leading point guard, and I think it becomes pretty simplified, and it forces him to do a lot. But I would be interested to know your thoughts. Thank you.
What a life. First of all, I want to say thank you because you are playing golf and you're actively thinking about AskKB. That's nuts to me. That's the time I shut my brain off and I'm just trying not to miss my birdie putt. Okay, my double bogey putt. You understand what I'm saying? I wonder how, because it sounded like I heard a little accent in there. I don't know where the accent is from. I don't know. It kind of sounded a little bit Australian. I could be wrong, and I know that technically the Cavs have 2 Australian players, technically between Tyrese Proctor and Luke Travers. So I don't know if you got your fandom from there. But anyway, I think it's more likely that if they were going to make the trade and say who's the odd man now, it would be Jared Allen. I mean, Jared Allen just basically at this point in time doesn't really close out NBA games anymore. I think he is a guy that can help bridge the gap for other teams that are not trying to compete for championships, like teams that need center play but aren't trying to win. And I feel like that might just be who he is as a player right now, which is completely fine. That's still a good ball player and all. But as you can see over the last couple of weeks, Darius Garland has looked like himself more times than not, and that's a little bit more intriguing. Well, I feel like trading away Jared Allen might be the easiest thing you can do, unless the report about Darius Garland wanting his own team where he can be the initiator is true. Then the decision was made for you. Because if somebody don't want to be here, you don't want them to be there. So I appreciate the question, and I appreciate all the questions as always. When we come back, let's talk New Year's resolutions. I myself am one of those people that try to self-reflect as much as possible, whether it be as a father, as a husband, as a content creator, as an analyst. I always try to self-reflect to figure out where I can be better because getting better is the ultimate goal. And like I mentioned earlier, I wasn't a person that looked at New Year's as a time to maybe flip a switch like some people do. And then I'm like, it's okay to kind of start fresh at a certain spot. So for this last little bit of the show, I kind of want to talk about the things that I personally want to be better at when it comes to everything in life. Um, the first one is maybe the toughest one of them all, considering with us being here on Peacock and NBC and everything, my schedule has shifted from, 3 days a week in studio to 6 days a week in studio, which is kind of nuts, but it's the way it is. The first thing I want to do is try to be more organized in my time to be more present at home. I have done a very poor job since the NBA season started with maximizing my time. Because everybody know one part of my schedule that is 100% set in stone is that basically about 6 o'clock every single day, I have to be in my office because that's when NBA games start, 6 o'clock Central Time. So from 6 o'clock to whatever the last possession is, let's say midnight, I'm watching games, taking notes, so on and so forth. But what am I doing in that time leading up? A lot of the times I'm in the office, right, from 9 a.m. to let's say 2 p.m., the short day. And then from 2 p.m. to 6, I'm really without a plan. And sometimes being without a plan has been detrimental to overall time with the girls. I'm talking my wife and my two daughters. I'm just going to try my very best to, like, at the end of every week, and I'm using Sunday as the end of the week, try to have a schedule of like, okay, I know I'm being in the office from this time, from this time. This is where I'm fitting in, filming other YouTube videos because being a YouTuber still is my full-time job, believe it or not. Find the YouTube spot. And I don't know if that means shooting YouTube videos one day a week and just schedule them out. I don't know just yet, but I'm going to try my very best to be more present. Because it's been tough, man. It's been really, really tough to, like, my youngest daughter is now 5 months. My oldest daughter is about to be 4 in a couple months here. And I can hear them in the other room having a grand old time. And because of my lack of scheduling, I'm in here doing something and I could have done 4 days ago. So try my very best to get my schedule down packed so I can be more present with the girls at home. And luckily, I got the best wife, and she understands that right now in this early stage of being with a new company, having a new schedule, it was going to be tough. And I'm hoping that I can use this next whatever to kind of figure some things out. The next thing is that been my New Year's resolution for a long time, and I feel like I'm getting better. I'm still trying to gain weight, y'all. I'm still trying. I feel like since the beginning of before it was small ball, it was the Kenny Beecham pod. We was talking about how I was weighing, what I was weighing, and how I was trying to get it up. And I will say, I'm here to announce that in 2020, I started 2025. Don't laugh at me, y'all. Don't laugh at me. I'm being very candid here. I started 2025 weighing 130. Just a piece of paper of a man, right? As far as weight goes. And right now, as we close out 2025, when I weighed myself last a couple days ago, I was at 142. Now I know 10 pounds is like nothing, or 12 pounds is nothing to some of y'all out there. But for me, my entire life, I've struggled with gaining weight. So getting 10 pounds up in one singular year feels like a win. I'm taking that as a win, but it's not my end goal. If I'm being honest, my end goal is about 150 and cut. I'm lifting a little bit. I'm doing my push-ups on the nightly. So I know I'll be in here wearing sweaters and hoodies and stuff, but trust, under here, I'm like, yeah, almost rock solid. I'm still not weighing a lot, but I'm rock solid. So continue on that plan of gaining weight, making sure that even when I'm not hungry anymore, then I continue to go because I know it's for the better of everything. Continue to make sure I get my 3 shakes a day because sometimes I be slacking and I get 2, and I'm disappointed in myself as I lay in bed. Um, and then on top of that, again, continue to cut myself out as far as making sure I'm lifting and being active. Because when you're sitting or you're watching games for 6 hours a day, it is very easy to end up in that. Was that sedimentary? Was that the rock? Hmm. Um, what do they call it when you're sitting for 6 hours a day, or you're not being active, you're not getting your 2,000 steps in? It's very easy to kind of live that life, and I'm trying my very best to not let that be me. So put on this weight, cut the weight up, enter a bodybuilder competition. Nah, I can't go that far. But those are my big ones. And be better. Damn, I'm being better everywhere, huh? Be better as a son and as a brother. So just check in on the family more. Hopefully, that's been another great edition of Small Ball with Kenny Beecham. Leave a like, subscribe, tune in to Small Ball and everything else on the Enjoy Basketball Hour, Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern.